Hello, Mom. You're in the hospital for malnutrition. Weren't you eating properly? I've been sending you money.
Ah, thank you always, dear. But, 75 cents won't cover the transaction fees, so don't worry about it.
75 cents? What do you mean?
Strapped for cash, I've been living a life of cutting corners on food and utility bills, and finally collapsed from malnutrition. My eldest son, Michael, has been sending me 75 cents every month. It's not the amount, but the thought that counts, I told him.
I've been sending you $1,350 every month, Mom.
Gradually, Michael revealed a series of shocking truths. My name is Catherine, and I'm 80 years old this year. I lost my husband 5 years ago and now live alone in an old apartment. As a lifelong homemaker, my pension and my late husband's survivor's benefits are my only income. It's far from an easy life. I've always cut corners, from food to utilities. I even moved to a cheaper apartment to barely make ends meet. Today, with snow flurries outside, I'm not using the heater to save on electricity. I'm bundled up in a down jacket and wearing layers of warm pants to fend off the cold. My hands are chapped and bleeding from doing chores with cold water. And my left hand is swollen with frostbite. While tidying up after lunch, my daughter-in-law, Susan, comes to visit.
Hi, Catherine. I have your meds for the week. It's the usual $90.
Susan comes every week to deliver my medication. Michael also cares for me. He's a busy pharmacist at a major hospital, so it's Susan who tends to me. I used to go to the doctor with Susan, but for the past few years, she's just been delivering my meds. It's cheaper this way, she'd say, but even this expense is a strain on my tight budget. However, I can't stop taking them as I would feel unwell otherwise. Susan used to work in a hospital pharmacy like Michael, but she quit after they got married. Now she works part-time at a local drugstore. I really appreciate your help, Susan. By the way, do you know where the box of crackers I had in the dresser drawer is? The one with the kids' doodles on the lid. I haven't been able to find it since last week. I point to the dresser in the back. I had Susan organize around there last week, but ever since then, I can't find that box. It contained the savings I had painstakingly accumulated over the years.
Cracker box, I don't know about that. Maybe you misplaced it. Please don't blame others.
Susan, apparently hurt by the suspicion, takes the money for the meds and leaves in a huff. Well, nothing to be done about it. I put the meds away and head to the bank with my cane. It's the end of the month. Since losing my husband 5 years ago, my pension is my only income. Michael, concerned about me, sends a monthly allowance. The bank statement from the ATM always shows a deposit of 75 cents. The amount seems too small, almost less than the transaction fees, but it's the thought that counts. It's hardly enough to make a dent in my living expenses, but I'm grateful for the sentiment. After leaving the bank, I head to my usual greengrocer's. The owner, Johnson, in his 60s and still full of energy, is a familiar face. He often gives me leftover or slightly damaged vegetables at a discount, especially late in the day. Today, I got some bruised turnips, radishes, and wilting spinach. I thanked Johnson and head home to make my secret recipe pickles with the turnips and radish. The pickles, a blend of hobby and frugality, have a flavor and crunch that I'm quite proud of. Dinner is a simple but tasty meal of boiled spinach and pickles. Lately, I've been feeling unwell. Whenever I stand up, I get severe dizziness, and even a little movement causes palpitations and shortness of breath. My nails and fingertips are in terrible shape. Maybe it's because I've been cutting back on food expenses and not getting enough nutrition. I've had health issues before, but I always chalked it up to aging and didn't pay much attention. However, recently, the pain in my body and the severity of my dizzy spells have become unbearable. I called Susan to see if she could take me to the hospital.
The hospital for dizziness, that seems a bit much.
Well, I am getting on in years, so maybe it's inevitable, but I am worried. I haven't been to a hospital in years. Could you take me?
But I'm really busy, you know. Michael is working all the time, too. Can we do it another time? It doesn't seem urgent.
I had a feeling she might say no. The nearest hospital is quite far from my house. Being short on funds, I can't afford the consultation fee, let alone the transportation costs.
And please don't contact Michael about this. He's at a critical point in his work right now. If there's anything, contact me.
With that, Susan hung up abruptly. I sighed and took my medication with cold water. One day, while chatting with Johnson, the owner of my regular greengroceries, I was suddenly hit by a severe dizzy spell. Unable to support myself with my cane, I crouched down on the spot. Johnson rushed over feeling worried and asked me if I was okay. The dizziness wouldn't subside, even when I sit down. It's just a little dizzy spell. I'm fine. As I tried to stand up, the world spun, and I passed out. When I woke up, I found myself in a hospital bed, with Johnson sitting beside me. While receiving an IV drip, I learned about the situation from Johnson. He had called an ambulance after I collapsed at the greengroceries. It seems I slept through the night, as it was already bright outside. The doctor explained that I was suffering from severe malnutrition and anemia. Unbeknownst to me, my bones had become extremely brittle. I wanted to go home early because of the medical expenses, but I was told to stay in the hospital for a week.
Catherine, I always told you to eat properly. You scared me, collapsing out of the blue like that.
Johnson had always been concerned about my health. I'm sorry for worrying you, but I just don't have the money.
Isn't your eldest son a doctor or something? He works at a hospital, so he must have a good salary. Can't he send you some money?
He's a pharmacist. He's been sending me money, but... I smiled awkwardly and stayed silent. Michael does send me money every month, but it's such a small amount that it doesn't help much. And the weekly payments for the medication from Susan have significantly depleted my pension. Johnson suggested asking for more money, but I felt uncomfortable asking for more, even from family. But now, with the hospitalization, I was worried about the medical bills. I live paycheck to paycheck. There's no way I can afford expensive medical treatment. And I was also concerned about my pickles. They need to be stirred every 3 days, or they'll spoil. After thanking Johnson and seeing him off, I looked for my cell phone to contact Susan. It was out of charge. I don't remember Susan's number, but I have memorized Michael's because it's similar to my home number. Despite Susan's instructions not to contact him, this seemed like an emergency. I borrowed a phone from the hospital and called Michael.
Hello.
Ah, good. I finally got through to you. It's been a while. Michael, it's your mother. Sorry to bother you during work. I had occasionally called Michael despite Susan's instructions. I just wanted to hear his voice, but for some reason, I never managed to get through. Perhaps he was too busy with work. Anyway, I was relieved that the call went through at such a critical time.
Mom, I was wondering who was calling. It's been a while since you've called. Where are you calling from?
I hesitated to worry about Michael, but I confessed I was in the hospital. Surprised, Michael listened as I briefly explained how I had collapsed and ended up hospitalized.
Malnutrition. But, Mom, haven't you been eating properly? I've been sending money for that reason.
Yes, thank you always. I truly appreciate it. But, 75 cents, it's less than the transaction fees, so don't worry too much about it.
75 cents? Transaction fees? What do you mean?
Confused, Michael listened as I thanked him for the 75 cents he sends each month and expressed how it's the thought that counts, not the amount. He listened silently.
I thought I was sending you more than that.
Michael finally managed to say that after a pause.
Wait a minute, but you said malnutrition, right? Weren't you going for monthly checkups? You should be getting medication, right? Hasn't the doctor said anything?
I do get medication. Susan brings it to my house every week, but I haven't been to the hospital in years. Recently, I've been having severe dizziness and palpitations, and I wanted to go, but Susan said she was too busy, and we should do it another time.
Medication. Every week.
Michael, are you there? Michael was muttering something to himself on the phone. I wondered if something was bothering him. Anyway, I know you're busy, but when you have time, could you bring me some clothes and my insurance card? And could you mix the pickles every 3 days?
Okay, I got it. I have the keys to the house, so I'll leave work early and head there. Don't worry about the hospital bills. I'll be there by this evening.
While I was puzzled by Michael's unusual tone, I was grateful that he could come so soon. Thank you. Remember, wash your hands thoroughly before mixing the pickles.
Mom, I'm here. How are you feeling? Are you okay?
After our phone call, Michael arrived by mid-afternoon. Having left work early, while organizing the clothes and personal items he brought from home, he asked me in detail about recent events. The house, my health, the medication, Susan. It felt like a continuation of this morning's conversation. He also brought my bank book, and we went through it together. He noticed the repeated entries of deposit 75 cents from 5 years ago. Michael stared at it with a fierce look. Since calling him this morning, something seemed off with Michael. Perhaps something happened at work. I had tried calling him 2 or 3 times a month, but he never answered or called back, so I assumed he was just very busy. I felt guilty for making him leave work early today, and casually mentioned and apologized for it. However, Michael seemed shocked and started questioning me rapidly. After listening, he pulled out his smartphone and started using it intently. I wondered what was going on. Michael, still silent, sent a message to Susan. He then grabbed his backpack and left the room, saying he needed to step out for a bit. Left alone, I felt a sense of foreboding but kept lying down on my hospital bed. In the evening, Michael returned to the room, asking about my condition. I felt much better after having received N4 and a good rest in a warm bed. While we were chatting and eating some fruit, Susan walked into the room.
Hi, Catherine. How are you feeling? Michael, you took off work, I see.
She approached with a forced smile and sat down next to Michael. He was holding my bank book and looking down. Before I could say anything, Michael spoke up. He spoke in a lower voice than usual.
Susan, Mom's suffering from malnutrition. Do you know why?
Susan remained silent, and the air grew tense. Michael turned to face Susan, glaring at her.
Mom has been struggling with money, unable to buy proper groceries. It's not just food. She's been cutting back on electricity and gas for years, barely making ends meet. When I went to her house today, she didn't even have any heating appliances, and it's the middle of winter.
Wait, Michael, we're in a hospital. What's going on? It's not Susan's fault that there's no money. I tried to hide my frost-bitten, swollen left hand and calm Michael. But Michael continued, his voice filled with anger.
The money I asked you to give Mom every month was $1,350, right? But all that was actually deposited was a mere 75 cents. For the past 5 years. Susan, what's the meaning of this?
With that, Michael thrust my bank book at Susan. On every page, there were 75 cents. I couldn't believe my ears. I never received $1,350. It was always 75 cents. Susan, confronted by the furious Michael, averted her eyes from the bank book and fell silent.
That's not all. I was giving you $180 every week for Mom's doctor visits and medication, right? You said you were using the leftover money to buy her necessities and groceries, but all I found in her room were wilted vegetables. The fridge was empty.
Quiet. I gave her the medication, didn't I?
What kind of medication? Without a doctor's prescription? Did you just concoct something yourself? The only thing in Mom's house was ordinary vitamin pills. Did you just buy some random vitamins from the drugstore where you work and put them in a medical-looking bag? What have you done?
It couldn't be helped. I needed the money.
Susan yelled back at the infuriated Michael. Even though we were in a private room, this was still a hospital. While I was shocked at the content of their conversation, I was also anxious.
Needed money. So, you stole Mom's savings too?
Saying this, Michael pulled out a crushed box from his backpack. On the lid were doodles that Michael drew as a child, depicting me and my husband. It was the cracker box I had been searching for since last week. I was too shocked to breathe.
No way, why?
After Mom said she lost it a week ago, I searched all the trash cans at home. I couldn't believe it myself, but Susan, you really.
Faced with undeniable evidence, Susan paled and lost her words.
So, Susan, what did you do with the $27,000 that was in there? Not just that, but the $1,350 I was supposed to be depositing every month, the hospital and medication expenses. Where did all that money go?
It's gone, all right. The money's gone.
Susan trembled as she looked at the box, but then stood up defiantly.
It's your fault, Michael. You always ignored me, always worried about your mother. Ryan, that host, he's much more wonderful than you.
Ryan?
He's the coolest guy at the local host club. I've been supporting him, and he's about to be #1. He's been saving all the money I gave him for our future.
Both Michael and I were dumbfounded by Susan's excited ramblings. It seemed she had found another man and was squandering money on him. Hence, her need for a lot of cash.
All right, Susan, I understand now. Let's get divorced here and now, for the sake of your life with this Ryan guy.
Calmly, Michael took out a divorce paper and a stamp from his backpack and placed them on the side table.
I never want to see your face again. Sign the divorce papers now, pack your stuff, and leave the house tonight. I'm staying at the hospital tonight.
What, Michael? Don't be ridiculous. All of a sudden.
Susan, do you even realize what you've done? Falsifying medication, stealing money. If you don't want to get divorced, I can take this to the police right now.
Intimidated by Michael's imposing gaze, Susan soon started tearing up and making excuses.
I had no choice. The part-time job wasn't enough. I took a little of the remittance and medication money, and I know it was wrong. But you and your mother didn't notice for years, so you're also to blame.
Enough, Susan. You've been messing with my phone to block Mom's number and telling her not to contact me, right? You deliberately kept us apart and methodically exploited us.
Michael slammed his fist on the table with the divorce papers, making Susan flinch.
Also, Susan, we're done, but I'll be billing you for all the money you took. If you don't pay it back, remember I'll go to the police.
Finally realizing the gravity of her actions, Susan signed the divorce papers while crying. That night, she left our home as Michael had instructed, disappearing like a thief in the night. Instead of reporting to the police, we made sure to claim the money Susan had exploited. The total of the allowance and medication expenses over the past 5 years, along with my hidden savings, shockingly exceeded $90,000. Afterwards, Susan, having lavishly spent on her host boyfriend, found herself unable to contact him and went into a frenzy, causing a scene at his club and getting banned. Bad news spreads fast. She was eventually fired from her part-time job, which had come to know of her deeds. Without any income and unable to afford rent, Susan resorted to staying in internet cafes for a while, but her current whereabouts are unknown. I had almost given up hope of getting my money back after Susan went missing. But her family, upon learning of the situation, agreed to repay the amount in small installments. While it might be difficult to recover the full amount, their willingness to make amends was heartening. After my discharge, I decided to live with Michael. We now reside peacefully in the house Susan left, free from the financial strain she had imposed on us. I'm healthier now, enjoying warm meals and a comfortable home. Johnson, the greengrocer who had always been concerned about me, was finally relieved. I continue to make my beloved pickles. What started as a hobby and a means of saving money has now, with Michael's help, turned into sharing pickle-making techniques and delicious recipes online. Surprisingly, my pickle channel became incredibly popular within a few years, now generating a substantial income. Having never worked as a full-time employee, I once believed earning money was impossible for me, but now I see that I can contribute to others. Beyond the financial gain, the joy of bringing happiness to people has made my days fulfilling.